to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Good evening, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching ASEAN in Focus on tonight's headlines. Brace yourselves for a bumpy ride. The World Bank paints a grim picture of the next 5 years, forecasting the slowest economic growth in 3 decades. What does this mean for your wallet and the world? We break it down tonight. And buckle up for another kind of ride. Vietnamese car maker VinFast throws down the gauntlet, announcing its first electric vehicle factory in India. Can they compete with Tesla in this booming market? A warm abrazo across the sea, Indonesian President Widodo visits the Philippines, seeking to strengthen the bond between these Southeast Asian neighbors. What's on the agenda for this high-level meeting? We follow the developments closely. As the world approaches the halfway point of this decade, envisioned as a transformative era for development, the global economy faces a disappointing reality. The World Bank's latest global economic prospects report paints a somber picture, predicting the slowest half-decade of GDP growth in 30 years. While the risk of a global recession has thankfully receded, thanks largely to the resilient U.S. economy, the overall outlook remains sluggish.
So global economy has been remarkably resilient despite a barrage of shocks. But the global slowdown continues. In fact, this will be a third year of global growth slowing. We will see growth around 2.4%. Last year it was 2.6%. And there are still a multitude of risks confronting the global economy.
Developing economies face the brunt of the slowdown, grappling with sluggish trade, tighter financial conditions, and the spillover effects from major economies. Global trade growth, for instance, is expected to be halved compared to the pre-pandemic decade. Despite the challenging outlook, the report highlights a critical factor for success: sustained investment booms.
This edition of the Global Economic Prospects Report discusses the critical importance of investment booms. These are episodes we see emerging developing economies register investment growth in per capita terms 4% on average over a 6-year period. So they are sustained and they are rapid growth episodes when it comes to investment. They translate into much higher output growth, productivity growth, lower poverty, and of course they come with all types of macro and development benefits.
However, for commodity exporting countries, volatility remains a major obstacle. Implementing disciplined fiscal policies and adopting flexible exchange rates can help these economies navigate boom-bust cycles and pave the way for steady growth.
The report has a chapter on fiscal policy in commodity exporting economies. Fiscal policy tends to be more pro-cyclical and more volatile in commodity exporters than other countries. Because of that, these economies experience boom-bust cycles, and these cycles have a huge drag on economic growth. By implementing disciplined fiscal policies, fiscal rules, exchange rates that are able to absorb these commodity shocks, and of course, having access to international financial markets can make a big difference in terms of reducing fiscal volatility, fiscal procyclicality, and increasing growth prospects.
A major visit from a close neighbor. Indonesia's President Joko Widodo arrived in the Philippines today for a 3-day trip aimed at strengthening ties between the two Southeast Asian nations. President Marcos Jr. welcomed his counterpart with open arms and high hopes, both leaders expecting to discuss ways to expand cooperation in areas like trade, defense, and maritime security. This isn't their first meeting. Last year, President Marcos emphasized the critical role Indonesia plays in ensuring regional stability and economic prosperity.
As immediate neighbors and fellow archipelagic states, the Philippines and Indonesia agreed to continue our cooperation on political and security matters. Our shared historic roots are deep, and thank you to our close kinship and our cultural ties that we continue to promote and we continue to allow to prosper. As such, our exchanges and discussions about ways to deepen our political and economic ties have come naturally. Our ministries have worked hard, and today we saw one of these works bear fruit, as we witnessed the signing of the MOU on the cooperation in the field of energy. Through this MOU, our countries create a new synergy as we cooperate to achieve energy security. In addition to this MOU, another MOU on science and technology is nearing the completion phase as well. So today we also recognize Indonesia's contribution to peace and development in the southern Philippines. As Mindanao continues to reap the dividends of peace and democracy, we hope that Indonesia will continue to extend its helping hand to building the institutions of local governance, particularly in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. As founding members of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations and the Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, East ASEAN Growth Area, the Philippines and Indonesia affirmed our insistence on the universality of UNCLOS, which sets out the legal framework that governs all activities in the oceans and in the seas.
75 years of Indonesia-Philippines diplomatic relations is an excellent momentum to further strengthen concrete cooperation between our two countries. In this connection, I would like to convey three things. First, in the field of politics and security, we have agreed to strengthen border cooperation, and I've conveyed the importance of accelerating the revisions of the Border Patrol Agreement and Border Crossing Agreement, the settlement of continental shelf boundaries, and the strengthening of defense cooperation, including defense equipment. Second, in the field of economy, in order to enhance trade, we agreed to continue to open market access, and Indonesia seeks the Philippines' support related to special safeguard measures on Indonesian coffee products. I also appreciate the Philippines' trust in Indonesian SOEs in the construction of Philippines' important infrastructure and for the groundbreaking of the North-South Commuter Railway project, which is important to be accelerated. Regarding our region, we agreed on the importance of strengthening ASEAN unity and centrality that is not merely a jargon, and for ASEAN to continue to uphold the principles of international law and become a positive force for peace, stability, and prosperity. And that's all from me. Thank you very much.
But beyond formal talks, this visit also highlights the deep cultural and historical ties between the Philippines and Indonesia. The two nations celebrate 75 years of diplomatic relations this year, boasting a vibrant people-to-people exchange. Diplomatic ties between the Philippines and Indonesia were officially established on November 24, 1949. Widodo arrived at the Villamor Air Base in Pasay City Tuesday night. With the global economy facing challenges, the Philippines and Indonesia see their partnership as a vital source of strength and growth. And this visit marks a key step in building a brighter future for both nations and the entire region. Vietnamese car maker VinFast is making a bold move, announcing its first electric vehicle factory in India. This $2 billion investment marks a significant step for the young company, aiming to compete with giants like Tesla in the rapidly growing Indian market. The factory, located in Tamil Nadu, will initially cost $500 million and have an annual capacity of 150,000 vehicles. This ambitious project aims to create 3,500 local jobs and establish VinFast as a major player in the Indian EV landscape. However, VinFast's journey hasn't been smooth. Its overseas expansion has seen challenges, including a rocky NASDAQ debut and internal sales primarily driven by its parent company. Despite these hurdles, VinFast remains optimistic. The company's new CEO, Phan Nhat Vuong, Vietnam's richest man, is directly overseeing global operations and is confident in their Indian venture. This ambitious project is being closely watched by the automotive industry. If successful, VinFast might not only dominate the Indian EV market, but also solidify its position as a global competitor in the years to come. Thailand's tourism industry just received a much-needed shot in the arm. The country is extending visa-free entry for Chinese visitors, opening the door to a crucial market and potentially reining its bustling tourism scene. Thomas I. Likeness reports.
Last year, Bangkok granted Chinese tourists visa exemptions under a temporary scheme that was due to expire February 29th. A government spokesman says the program will be extended after talks with Beijing, which could also see Thais permitted to travel visa-free to China. He says they have an informal agreement to allow tourists from the two countries to travel to one another permanently. He adds the proposal will be formalized before the end of February and take effect March 1st. If approved, Chinese and Thai nationals will be able to stay for up to 30 days per visit. Welcoming more Chinese tourists could offer a lift for Thailand's sluggish economy. Tourism accounts for almost 20% of its gross domestic product. But the sector has struggled in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic and changing traveler habits. In particular, Chinese tourists have been slow to return. They previously accounted for the largest percentage of Thailand's visitors, with around 11 million touring the country in 2019. The government says roughly 3.5 million Chinese tourists visited last year, compared to 4.6 million Malaysians. Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
A shift in tone from China. A senior Chinese official has extended an olive branch to the United States, urging cooperation and peaceful solutions to global challenges. Now, this marks a notable departure from the more hawkish rhetoric seen in recent years. Liu Jianchao, head of the Chinese Communist Party's International Division, emphasized peace and collaboration at an event celebrating 45 years of U.S.-China relations. He quoted President Xi Jinping as saying,
President Xi Jinping reiterated during his recent visit to the United States that China will not fight a Cold War or a hot war with anyone. People in Asia have our own way of dealing with each other, which values peace and, above everything else, and seeks peaceful solutions to all disputes. China does not seek to change the current international order, still less reinvent the wheel by creating a new international order. We are one of the builders of the current world order and have benefited from it.
He called for the U.S. and China, the world's two largest economies, to take the lead in addressing global issues. This conciliatory language contrasts with the wolf warrior diplomacy that previously characterized some Chinese official statements. Liu denied any major shift in approach, but his visit comes after a November summit between Xi and President Biden, where they agreed to work on several key issues.
During the summit meeting in San Francisco, President Xi Jinping put forward 5 pillars for China-US relations and a future-oriented San Francisco vision. What is needed now is not waiting or debating, but to act upon it. We should strengthen dialogue and communication.
However, analysts caution that major differences remain, with Taiwan being a particularly sensitive point. Liu reiterated China's stance on Taiwan, calling it a red line and urging the U.S. to uphold its commitment to non-interference.
For China, the Taiwan question is at the very core of the core interests. It's the red line that must be crossed. And we take serious the statements of the United States not supporting Taiwan independence, and we hope that the U.S. side will honor this commitment.
While this new emphasis on cooperation suggests a desire for a less confrontational relationship, the overall U.S.-China dynamic remains complex. Both sides face domestic pressures and significant areas of disagreement. The Biden administration, while pursuing diplomacy, still views China as its primary strategic competitor. More than 3 months into the deadliest ever Gaza war, top U.S. diplomat Antony Blinken met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Tel Aviv on his fourth round of Middle East crisis diplomacy since the conflict broke out. The details from Thomas I. Likeness.
More than 3 months into the deadliest ever Gaza war, this is Blinken's fourth round of shuttle diplomacy in the Middle East. He reaffirmed American support for Israel's right to prevent a repetition of the unprecedented Hamas attacks of October 7th that sparked the war. But Blinken also stressed the importance of avoiding further civilian harm.
More food, more water, more medicine, other essential goods need to get into Gaza, and then once they're in Gaza, they need to get more effectively to the people who need them.
Blinken says the effects of the war in Gaza are especially hard on children. Israel seems to accept that. Army spokesman Daniel Hagari says Israel will make sure the people of Gaza get what they need.
We are ready and willing to facilitate as much humanitarian aid as the world will give, especially essential aid like food, medicine, and shelter.
Also on the agenda, the issue of displaced Palestinians and their future. Blinken says Israel will allow the UN to come up with a plan to deal with that.
We agreed today on a plan for the UN to carry out an assessment mission. It will determine what needs to be done to allow displaced Palestinians to return safely to homes in the north.
For the long term, Blinken reiterated the need to ensure lasting, sustainable peace for both Israel and the region. He says that includes the realization of a Palestinian state.
Israel must be a partner to Palestinian leaders who are willing to lead their people in living side by side in peace with Israel as neighbors. And Israel must stop taking steps that undercut Palestinians' ability to govern themselves effectively.
Blinken says extremist settler violence carried out with impunity, settlement expansion, demolitions and evictions all make it harder, not easier, for Israel to achieve lasting peace and security. Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
A dramatic late-night rescue in Indonesia has saved the lives of over 200 dogs headed for the slaughterhouse, marking a significant victory for animal welfare activists fighting against the dog meat trade. Police intercepted a truck packed with the bound and shackled canines in Semarang City on Java Island. The 5 crew members face animal welfare charges and potential 5-year prison sentences. While dog and cat meat consumption remains legal in parts of Indonesia, Semarang and other cities have implemented local bans.
Informasi itu sudah kita dapatkan 1 bulan terakhir. Namun baru malam hari ini bisa kita gagalkan pengiriman 226 ekor anjing. Nah, sementara ini kita amankan 5 orang, kemudian 1 truk yang digunakan sebagai sarana untuk mengangkut.
Anwar revealed the dogs were destined for Surakarta, where they would have been slaughtered and sold in Western Java. Animal rights activists who alerted the police in December expressed relief at the rescue. This rescue comes after a notorious Sulawesi Island market stopped selling dog and cat meat last year. Get ready for the future because it's rolling into Las Vegas. The Consumer Electronics Show, or CES, is back in full force, bigger than ever and buzzing with artificial intelligence. From baby bottles to robots, AI is everywhere you look, making our lives smarter and smoother. This year's CES boasts over 3,900 exhibitors and 130,000 visitors, all hungry for a glimpse of the tech revolution to come. And at the heart of it all is AI, changing the way we interact with the world around us.
Lay out that AI is actually becoming more human in the way that you interface with it. And it's actually doing much more than just democratizing access to the technology. It's allowing us to interface in ways that we've never been able to experience in the past. past. And you already have it in many of the devices that you're using, whether you've got a phone with you or maybe your Apple Watch or otherwise. AI is starting really to be everywhere. And the irony here is that the more that it becomes embedded, the less you're actually going to see it because it's going to become more human in the way it works. It's not sentient. It doesn't have, feelings. It doesn't do things. It emulates and simulates human creativity. It helps us be better. It will amplify us as humans, not compete with us. I like to say this too, that AI is not about making superhumans. It's about making humans super. And you past. And we've seen this movie before because we saw this during the Industrial Revolution. We saw this in the 1940s, and yeah, we'll see this as well as AI continues to proliferate. And there's already new jobs showing up. Did prompt engineer exist a year ago? Not really, and I think we're going to see even more than that in the future.
Take CES Unveiled, where startups showcase their cutting-edge inventions. We saw a baby rocker that detects drowsiness, a robot assistant for caregivers, and even smart bricks that respond to voice commands.
When the little one is asleep, you can stop and turn on Rock My Baby mode to help them stay asleep. It's feature-packed with white noise playback, storytime playback. It's recognized as humans, pets, scooters, bikes, vehicles that might not be stopping, and gives parents an extra warning so that sleep-deprived parents essentially have driver assist on a daily basis.
Très vite, très bientôt, on va présenter les briques d'intelligence artificielle qu'il y a dans Miroca et elle va être capable de répondre à deux types d'ordres, ceux des soignants ou des gens qui opèrent le robot, qui vont être des ordres du style « va me chercher ci, va me chercher ça » ou « amène ceci, ceci à tel endroit ».
If the music is not working for you, aka like when the music is playing but the sleepiness level doesn't increase, then the AI will automatically switch the content.
So the way this whole technology works is we're actually analyzing the facial blood flow patterns underneath your skin. So we use a process called transdermal optical imaging, so RPPG. So we're actually using reflective light to capture your blood flow patterns.
People who are in airports, on flights, on trains, instead of staring down at that small screen, they can sit back, rest their head, neck, and shoulders, and get a 130-inch to 330-inch screen here. Great for business travelers. Great for gamers because we plug into just about everything.
Let's be clear, it doesn't replace a massage therapist, but it can provide amazing specialized care. Right now it specializes on just the back, the upper back to the lower back, and the pressure, the movement, the relaxation. Most people fall asleep to this technology, so it's very impressive what they've been able to do.
I think there's a lot of potential to this. It feels very natural. It's not as good as a human, but it's a great step in that direction.
Companies like LG and Samsung are pushing boundaries with transparent TVs that double as windows, blurring the lines between technology and reality. The future is here, and it's powered by artificial intelligence. At CES, we saw a glimpse of a world where technology seamlessly blends with our lives, making us smarter, healthier, and more connected than ever before.
Here we have the world's first 4K OLED wireless transparent TV. And it's a very unique product that provides very unique experiences. You see the contrast film rolling down, and that's how the TV turns from a regular OLED TV into a transparent TV. And then even though it's in transparent mode, as you can see, beautiful artwork displaying on the screen. Imagine you're in a New York City apartment and you're in a studio and you want to dedicate space between the living room and the kitchen. You don't want to put up a physical wall. You could use a product like this. Since it's transparent, it still provides that open concept feeling without blocking the living room and the kitchen. Right now, the pricing and the launch timing hasn't been determined. It's most likely going to be a second half launch. And as we get closer to that date, we'll release more information on the exact price and the exact date of when this TV will be available.
As my usual habit, I'd like to end the day on a positive note. Let's encourage and build each other up so that no one is left behind. And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angela. Stay in the news because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.